Hi everyone, welcome back to Spring Java Lab. I hope you are doing great. If you are working as a backend engineer, you often get requirement to integrate your application with third-party SFTP servers. In enterprise projects like e-commerce or banking, you rarely download single file. Basically, the requirement would be you need to download all the files from particular folder and process them. So our job is to connect to the SFTP directory and download all the newly generated files to our local file system and further process it, right? And also we need to delete them from the remote server so we don't accidentally download them again on next day or whenever the job runs. So today we are going to build this exact real world use case using Spring Batch and JSch library. But before we write any code, let me show you the live working demo of what we are going to build today. So here is my setup. On the left hand side you can see I have Postman open, through which I will be hitting one get endpoint to trigger the Spring Batch job. And on the right hand side you can see the FileZilla, and there is a split inside the FileZilla. So on right hand side of the FileZilla there is a remote files that we need to download, and on the left hand side basically it is a local directory where we want to download our files. So let me just trigger the job and see the result. So I'm hitting the get endpoint, and once I get the success message, let me just refresh the FileZilla so we can check whether the files are downloaded or not. So here you can see the files are downloaded to my local system and the files are removed from the remote SFTP server. That is what we want to achieve. So let's start our coding. Just a quick note before we jump into ID. I'm still a beginner here on the YouTube, so I'm trying to build a community of a backend developer who want to learn real enterprise skills. If you find value in this practical approach, please consider subscribing to Spring Java Lab. Your support really means a lot to me. So let's open IDE and start our coding. To save time, I have created basic Spring Batch project, and you can see the dependencies that I have added. I have added Spring Web dependency, Spring Batch dependency, and next I have added the Oracle dependency as I am using Oracle database. As we know, Spring Batch needs some database to store metadata while running the job. And the other dependency, that is the JSch. This is the standard Java library that we use to establish secure SSH and SFTP connections, right? So that's all in the pom.xml. Now let's check application.properties. I have configured my Oracle database connection, and next I have added Spring Batch job enable equal to false. This is important because if you don't add it, then the job will automatically run when you start the server. Next you can see I have added the SFTP host, username, password, and the port. And also I have configured a directory from where we need to download the files, and this is the local directory where we need to download the files. So this will be the remote directory that contains the files that we need to download, and those files will be downloaded to this local directory. Also, if you don't have any SFTP server, you can create one for testing purpose using sftpcloud.io. So here you will find the option to create a test SFTP server, and this will be auto deleted after 1 hour. So once I click on this, you will find the SFTP server details. So here you can see it has provided host, username, port, and password. So basically it will be auto deleted in 59 minutes. So for testing you can use this. Alright, so let's start actual coding. We are going to create one custom tasklet to handle our SFTP logic. So here you can see I have created one class SFTP download tasklet, and we'll be implementing tasklet interface, right? And also we'll be using iterate component annotation on top of it, and here we need to override the execute method. Okay, now let's inject SFTP properties that we have seen in the application.properties using iterate value. Now next we need to implement the execute method. So here first of all we will be creating JSch object using which we will be establishing the session. So let me just create one object of JSch, and next I will be creating one object of session and initialize it to null. Next, I will be creating one object of channel SFTP. This will be used to execute any commands on the SFTP directory. So I will be creating channel SFTP object and initialize it to null. Next, we'll be using try finally block, and inside the finally block, we'll be closing session and channel SFTP connection. So first, we need to establish session. So let me use session is equal to, we will be using jsch.get session. Here we need to pass username. Next, we need to pass the host, and we need to pass the port. Next, we need to set the password. So for that, we'll be using session.password. Next, I will be setting configuration for strict host tagging to no. This is just for the testing purpose, and in the production, you should configure known host file. So you don't need to configure this. Next, we need to establish connection using session. So we'll be using session.connect. Now, next we need to open SFTP channel. So for that, we'll be using session.open channel, and here we'll be passing SFTP. So this will provide a channel SFTP connection. So let me just use this variable which I have created, channel SFTP, and here we need to add cast. Next, we need to connect to it. So we'll be using channel SFTP.connect. Now comes the main business logic. We need to list all the files present in a remote directory. So we can do that using ls command. So here you can see I have added ls command on the remote directory, and this will provide basically all the files present over there. Now let's iterate over the file using the for loop. So here you can see I am just iterating over the files, and like in each iteration we'll be downloading a file. Okay, so let's first get the file name. So we can get it using entry.get file name, and I'm just taking one variable file name here. Now a quick catch: if you are working Linux, you must be aware like every directory contains two hidden references, that is dot for the current directory and double dot for the parent directory. We must skip this, otherwise our code will crash while downloading those folders. So for that I will be just adding one if condition, like if the file name is dot or double dot, we just need to continue and like move to the next file. Next, we need to construct path dynamically. For that, I am taking two variables, remote file path and local file path. So this is where the file will be located on the remote server, and this is where we want to download the file. Now we just tell the channel to fetch the file. So for that, we need to use the get command. So channel sftp.get, and we need to provide the source and destination. The source will be the remote file path, and destination will be the local file path where we want to download the file. And immediately after fetching the file, we need to remove it from the remote directory. So for that, we need to use the remove command, that is the rm, and here we need to provide the remote file path. Now let's add the success log here that a file has been downloaded and removed from the remote server. Okay, and here comes the critical finally block. We need to check if the session and the channel SFTP are connected. If yes, we will be calling disconnect. This will prevent any memory leaks. So let me just add one condition. So if session is not equal to null and session is connected, then we'll be simply calling the session dot disconnect. And same for the channel SFTP. So if channel SFTP is not equal to null and channel SFTP dot is connected, if yes, then we need to just disconnect it. So channel SFTP dot disconnect, sorry, channel SFTP dot disconnect. Okay, and at the end of this method we just need to return repeat status dot finished. So I will change this to repeat status dot finished. Now using Spring Batch 6 syntax, we'll be defining our step using step builder, and we'll be passing our SFTP download tasklet and transaction manager. Also, we'll be defining our job using job builder. So here you can see I've defined the job using job builder, and we have passed the step it need to execute. So here the step, and basically step comprises of the tasklet that we have created. So flow is like job consists one step. That step is SFTP download step, which we have defined it here, right? And this step contains one tasklet that it need to execute. And apart from that, it's standard, like we need to pass job repository and the transaction manager. Now next is how we can trigger the job. For that, I have defined one job controller. Here you can see it's a REST controller with one get endpoint, and here you can see I have injected the job, and also I have injected job operator, which is a modern way to launch job in Spring Batch 6. And here you can see I have created job parameters, and basically I'm just calling job operator dot start. Here we need to pass the job that we want to run, and along with that we need to pass the job parameters. So with this our coding is completed, and let me start the server so we can just check everything is working fine. So here we can see application is up and running. Now we'll be placing some files on the remote SFTP server. So here you can see I have placed two files on the remote SFTP server. Now let me just hit the get endpoint to trigger the job. and here we received 200 OK with a success message. Now let me just refresh FileZilla. So here you can see those two files are downloaded to my local directory and those are removed from the remote SFTP server. Now if you don't want to type all this code manually, don't worry. I have written complete step-by-step article on this exact tutorial on my website springjavalab.com. I will put the link of the website in the pinned comment and in the description. So if you face any error while setting this up, just let me know in the comment section and I will definitely help you out. If this video added some value to your learning, please give a like and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Keep coding and I will see you in the next video.